Christina, could you tell us about your health journey and how did you discover carnivore?
So I actually found carnivore after a very long, stressful battle with food and just really having a complicated relationship with my body and exercise and food. So I had always been looking for a diet to solve all my issues. And I found that diets don't work, but it took me a really long time. And so back in 2010, I became I'd say allergic, but it was really intolerant to corn, dairy, soy, peanuts, and corn. And that was huge for me. But, I was eating whole food. So it was all good. And people were freaking out. They were like, oh my gosh, what do you eat? And I'm like, whole foods, those things before garbage. And I found out that I had leaky gut, and so I would really avoid getting any kind of cross contamination. And I found a doctor in North Carolina. So I would drive from Lynchburg, Virginia, about, I think it was like 2.5 hours to see this doctor for about 15 minutes. And she really helped me through that part of my journey. She was a gut specialist. And I just really struggled because when you have leaky gut, it's extremely painful and it causes all kinds of issues. And I would go out to eat with my family and I would basically trust that the restaurant would cook the stuff correctly. And there was a time that I actually got home and could hardly even get to the house. I got out of the car and then I had to lay on the ground for like, I think 2 hours before I could get up to even walk. The pain was so bad. And people were like, you should be able to eat gluten. It's fine. You should be able to eat, like whatever you want. And I'm like, yeah, well, I can't really think my way there because it's not working. So I became the weird one back then. And then in about 2019, because I was avoiding everything that I shouldn't eat for, years. And then in 2019, I dealt with a secret issue that I had with food, and I hired this coach. And in 4 months, it totally changed my life. So I went from binge eating in the secret back, like nobody knew about it but my husband. And I just lived that horror for like 33 years. And it was like I was a wellness person and I was like very passionate about wellness, but I had this whole other thing. And it started out as, just like when I was younger, coping with stress in my life. And then it became, way more complicated. And I just was, I don't even know how I found this coach, but she was everything I needed in that moment. So I became a coach because I was completely changed by her. And she taught me that I could make peace with food, make peace with my body, and make peace with exercise because I used exercise to like completely beat myself up for probably not the whole 33 years, probably when I was around 20, maybe. That's when I learned you could kind of balance this whole secret thing out. So I completely didn't take care of myself. So in all those years and all that stress, I just was a mess. And then when I made peace, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then like 4 months, I was pretty like at peace with everything. And my husband was like, what is happening? Like, you're not really losing it anymore, because I was very stressed out back then. And I went to coaching school, and I really saw that everything in my life, I could see it in a different way. I could actually experience life and have a different perspective. So that's really what changed everything for me. And then in 2022, I went to a convention in Orlando by myself. And, I didn't know what happened, but while I was there, I got cross contaminated with what I thought was gluten. That's what it felt like to me. So I got really sick. I was there for like 3 days, it was for a convention. So all my clothes didn't fit. I looked horrible because I just swole up really bad. And I just dealt with it. And then I got home and it didn't go away. So I was basically reacting to every single thing that I ate every time I ate. So I didn't know what to do. And I have a friend in California and we're like besties. And he was like, okay, you're allergic to almost everything. He's like, I think, because I was already allergic to like lots of things because I had allergies to like seasonal allergies, just lots of things. So he was like, you should try the Michaela Peterson diet. And I was like, what is that? And he said, oh, it's an all meat diet. And I said, oh, that sounds terrible. Why would I do that? Sounds dangerous. And he was like, what do you mean it sounds dangerous? It's just meat. And he was like, he didn't call himself a vegan, but he basically was a plant-based guy is what he called himself. And so it's just so funny that we ended up being besties. Well, anyway, he goes, you should do that. So before I went to bed, because I was really sick, I was having reactions every single day for 7 months straight. And nobody would listen to me. I couldn't get anybody to pay attention or to see that I had an issue. They were just like, I don't know, your labs look fine. Probably, you're fine. So anyway, I before I went to bed that night, I watched the Joe Rogan interview of Michaela Peterson, and I was like, "Huh, isn't that interesting?" And then I went to sleep. I slept really good after watching that, and then I got up the next day, and I spent 60 hours that week just going down the rabbit hole. And I studied Anthony Chafee, Dr. Ken Berry. I found Homestead How, Carrie Mann, and I just, Kelly Hogan and Dr. Lisa Weideman. And I just was like blown away that there was this whole thing I didn't know anything about that was like really a thing and it was possible. And it seemed to be healing, for all these people, especially when I watched Kelly Hogan talk about her story. I was like, whoa. And then I looked at her and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. So I decided after 60 hours of research and all of the time that I spent, I mean, I was so sick, I couldn't do anything. So I literally was like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. So I told my husband, I'm going to do carnivore. And he was like, that sounds dangerous. And he's like a steak and potato kind of guy, right? So I was like, well, it seems to be really healthy for all these other people. So I think I should try it. And I'm super sensitive to a lot of things. And that's been going on forever. So he was like, okay. So I told him, hey, everyone that I've watched said it takes 21 days to transition and to really go from being a sugar burner to being a ketone or fat burner. And I think I can do this. I just have to keep my eye on the 21-day mark. And he was like, okay. And he works on the road. So he was like, okay, you've got, the dogs and this and that. And so you got to take care of all that. And I'm like, cool. So I go on the carnivore way of eating. I don't like to call it a diet, even though that's what people call it. It was hard. So it wasn't hard doing it. It was hard the way my body responded to it because I actually became so weak and lethargic. Like I couldn't hold my head up to walk the dogs outside. I like had no energy and I just kept telling myself, and I had electrolytes. I was doing the electrolytes. I also tried to eat pork and chicken and ground beef. And I learned early on that I had a histamine response to all of those foods. It took me 3 weeks to get over one histamine response from eating ground beef with a pork chop. So I was like, okay, well, it's a good thing I learned about Michaela Peterson because I knew all about her stuff. So I didn't really go lion diet, but I went burger patties, salt, I did Kerrygold butter at that time. I do something different now, but I just stuck with the basics and electrolytes and water. And I was still doing coffee at that time. I think I was still putting coconut oil in it, actually, the MCT oil back then. And I actually hired Dr. Bright, Dr. Elizabeth Bright, to be my doctor less than 3 months in because it was a little chaotic. But I did make it the 21 days. So at day 18, everything shifted. I could lift my head. I had energy. I could think. And I was like, oh, this is what everybody's talking about. Like, you can not worry about the food noise. The food noise was gone. And my energy was on, and my brain felt like it had come online. And I was like, whoa, this is so amazing. So it was really life changing to do that. And then I had other things going on that I didn't really realize how they were connected. So that's why I reached out to Dr. Bright because I was doing all this research. I was finding Dr. Ovadia and Dr. Kiltz and all these people that seemed to be my people. They seemed to be like my family, but I hadn't met them yet. So I was very excited about all of it. But my husband did say when he would come home, when I was doing the transition the first 18 days, he was like, I don't I don't know if you're gonna live through this. You look really bad. And I was like, I just gotta make it 21 days. It's gonna be awesome. And he's like, uh, okay, sure. But it was rough, but, I did make that transition, and then I became the weirdo. I was already the weirdo. I was already the black sheep of the family. They always thought I was crazy because I was into wellness and natural things and trying to, like, do everything non-conventionally because I knew that was better. But, people think you're weird, whatever. So I loved that, it upset people. That sounds terrible, but I loved that it upset people that I was eating steak and burgers and butter, and I seemed to be doing okay, and they were all, like, super triggered by the fact that I wasn't eating carbs and I wasn't eating junk food, and I wasn't eating any sugar, like, that was not normal to all the people in my family, and even my friends, so it was all good, though. So basically, I'm just looking at my notes really quick to make sure I don't forget anything. I got through those. So basically, I hired Dr. Bright, and the coolest thing about that was when she sent me the intake stuff, I sent her like all these things you had to fill out. And when she got on the video with me, she goes, the first thing she said is, I know what's wrong with you. And I was like, you do? Please do tell. And she was like, it's your thyroid. And I was like, huh? And she was like, yeah, it's your thyroid. And so over time, I learned that your thyroid and your adrenals actually impact each other very heavily. So when one is off, the other one is off. So let's say adrenals are high and your cortisol is really high, then your thyroid is going to be low. And so it really, I'm a hard head. So, I basically want to do everything now that I'm like in my 50s. I think I should be able to do like an hour of working out and 4 courses all at the same time and a business, and she was like, "You need to slow down and calm down." And I was like, "No, it's fine. I'm doing carnivore. It's fine." So 2.5, actually, it's almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years in April. April 14th, I became a carnivore, 2023, and I just recently learned that I shouldn't be doing all this stuff to myself. So I've had to quit a couple of things, which was upsetting, but it was all good. And now that Dr. Bright has a membership now, so in order to talk to her, I go into the membership and I ask her questions. And I'm like, I had to be a hard head and like waste all that time not listening to her. And now I'm like, oh, now I know what she means. So I need to calm down. I need to get more sleep. I need to not let people upset me and not worry about what people think about me because when you let people like affect you in that way, it actually damages your health and they aren't even thinking about you. They don't care. So my biggest thing was back and Dr. Bright's been through everything with me. She all the stressful things that have happened that were really upsetting to me, she was there for me and she was able to say, "Look, you have to choose. Like, are you going to take care of yourself? Or are you going to worry about what all these people think and how they're treating you? Like it's affecting you." So my dad ended up with he got diagnosed. I say we because I was with him with all the stuff, but he got diagnosed with metastatic prostate cancer the same year I started carnivore, and so I started teaching him, like don't eat sugar, don't eat processed food, don't eat junk because that feeds this. Even though they say it's a testosterone driven illness, cancer loves sugar. It's just one of those things. So I taught that to him and he started losing weight because he was a lot heavier when this first happened. And he took it all seriously. And whew, I had so many people that I love still to this day who have told me, we don't want to talk to you anymore. Don't text us. Don't call us. Don't show up. We're done. We'll just agree to disagree. So that about took me out. It was very upsetting. I cried a lot over these people that I love, and they just didn't see it the same way. They were like, "Well, you know, we've never heard of cancer being fed by sugar. So, we think that you should just, let people that are dealing with that eat whatever they want and keep them comfortable." And I was like, "No, we're not doing that. Mm-mm. My dad's going to live through this." And he is doing pretty well. He chooses to do some things, but he has to learn, like he has to learn the consequences. But overall, he's doing great. And we did the natural route. We took him to Mexico and we got him a bunch of natural treatments. And he's home. He's doing great. He does treatments at home now, which are basically heat treatments. They sent a couple of things home with him. So he's doing great. But that was a very traumatic time. So I will say that it stressed my body and I thought something was wrong with me. So I started craving all the junk and the sugar and stuff. And so went off the rails for just about 3 months and I gained 25 pounds. I had lost 35 on carnivore. I gained 25 pounds in 3 months. And I hired this coach and she's a carnivore coach, and she's also she's a healing coach. She's amazing, and basically, I hired her, and I was in Mexico doing phone calls with her out on the little balcony, and she said some like a couple of sentences to me near the end, and I didn't realize it was my thyroid and my cortisol levels. I was thinking, "Oh no, everything came back." Like, "Oh no, like I'm broken. This didn't work." And she said, "Well, you can change today, you can change in 3 months, or you can change in 3 years. It's up to you." And I was like, wow, that's pretty wild. So I literally at that moment, I was like, okay, this is a choice. It was thyroid issues, but it was also a choice. So I made a U-turn. And when I got home from Mexico, a lot of other things happened that were stressful in the family and stuff, but I just decided I was gonna eat meat and I was gonna just take care of myself. And I just put my head down. I worked on my business. I went back to coaching school. I've built a podcast. It's brand new, but I'm working on several things because I am passionate about helping other women not go through what I went through. And if they can take a U turn earlier, I want them to be able to do that because it's detrimental to our health when we don't take care of ourselves and we put everything else at the priority level. And then we just like say, "I'll do it later. I'll do it when I have more time. I'll do it when the kids get older. I'll do whatever." But we can do it now. We can literally eliminate the foods that are poisoning us and we can be different. We can stand apart from the norm and societal norms. We can be true to ourselves and we can love ourselves and we can heal. We really can. So, metabolic health is amazing if you will do the things that are necessary to get back to that. I want to help women who have been chasing that older version of themselves. They're just trying to get back there and they can't do it. I want to help them do that. And it's really awesome when I'm going to talk about my framework. So there's the four horsemen of illness. Okay. It is grains, seed oils, sugars, and processed foods. They are so normalized in our society that that's like decent food. I call them non-food items and fake food. And you can consume them. They're highly addictive. They make you sick. And people are like, "You're weird. You eat meat. Why do you do that? You're going to die of a heart attack." Well, I got what's it called? It's called a lifeline screening. One of my doctors years ago said, "Hey, you need to go do this thing. It's like they're going to scan your arteries, blah, blah, blah." And I do that like every year. So when I started doing them, I had plaque in my arteries. And I was eating the cleaner version of the standard American diet, like chia seed pudding and coconut milk and all kinds of stuff, veggie straws, gluten-free veggie straws. They are the devil. Anyway, so I got it done last year and I had zero plaque in my arteries. So I was like, wow, I'm eating saturated fat, I'm eating salt, and I'm eating red meat, the three things they tell you will kill you. And then all these people who are triggered by me are literally eating non food items as their main nutrition. And I'm like, Yeah, that's why they're triggered because if you think for a minute they're going to stop, I mean, they'd have to have a major health issue in order to stop. So I like to talk about the four horsemen of illness because when you start to eliminate them, you start to think better, you start to sleep better, you start to handle stress better, and you start to feel like yourself again and just be chill and also and be able to enjoy your life because yeah, people burn fat, people lose weight. I know. That's what my podcast is about, but it's really the root cause that I want to help women with, and that's what I'm dealing with is the root cause. I'm starting to understand that I've eliminated all those things, but I haven't straightened out the stress piece. So the stress piece is one that women just ignore. They just like completely put it behind them and they ignore it and they act like it's not happening, but it's happening. And I'm like, well, you can't show up for anybody else. It's like, put the oxygen mask on yourself before you do it to other people. It's so true. So the carnivore diet for me is literally the solution to, I'd say, 99% of all people's health issues and, fatigue issues and just tired, exhausted, overweight, unhappy. It's mostly because of what they're putting in their mouth and how they're dealing with stress. What do you think?
Awesome. It's your story takes me back. So I've gone through a very similar issue with like excessive dieting, and then you have like a bad day or a stressful day, and you blow your calories out of the water, and then you punish yourself with lots of cardio. I went through that cycle for about 3 years, and now I'm just realizing how damaging
Mm.
that is to yourself. And I'm curious, when you spoke to that first coach and you said you made peace with food, made peace with exercise. Could you talk to us about how you got to that stage?
Okay, so when I hired this coach, I didn't know what I was in for, but I was all in. I was like, whatever she says, I'm going to do it. And it was a group coaching program. So I actually made some really good friends that we're still friends to this day. And it literally was about making room for yourself. Because when you're dieting, you're so focused on changing yourself and looking a certain way and being perceived a certain way. That's why you're doing all the cardio, and the cardio is making you want to eat things that you think you shouldn't eat, and it's like it's a vicious cycle that just keeps going. So I learned that it was my only coping mechanism. It was like the only thing. So I excessively dieted, and then I did tons of cardio, which I tell people cardio is a lie. You need to walk and you need to strength train 2 days a week. Let's just make this simple so it's doable. And then you won't have an excuse that I don't have time for this. So, yeah, when I started, the first thing that she did was get me to think about what caused all of that and why I decided to deal with my life that way, and really think about like what caused it, what lie was I believing, because it's usually about your beliefs and your belief system that is a little off, and then you make that your identity. And so, one of the first things she taught us is don't call yourself a binge eater. You're not a binge eater. Don't call yourself that because you will make that your reality. And I was like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I learned mindset, I learned coping mechanisms, and a lot of them are just the basics, practicing awareness, writing down the thoughts I want to think instead of the thoughts that I'm actually thinking right now. Because I've learned that like 70 to 80% of our thoughts are negative and we're running them on a loop. So it's like 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, which is ridiculous. It's amazing to even think we think that much, but they're just on repeat. They're just going in there. And we don't even stop to say, and she taught us this, is this even true? Which was like life changing. So we learned, breath work. We learned journaling. We learned um, basically just creating our new reality and practicing that. So I would actually have these little 3x5 cards because a friend of mine in the program, we would call each other and she'd be like, "Oh, there's no going back. we're not going back. There were a lot of younger people in the program, and then they were like not doing the course. So there's a course, and then you show up to the calls. And these people would not do the coursework. And then they show up to the calls and be like, oh, this happened again. And I did this again. And we were like, okay. So we actually became big sisters because there were so many people in the program that we were facilitating the material for our coach because, I mean, there were so many people. And so we played a little video, we asked questions, we went over and gave them, like things to think about. And for me, this friend of mine, she was like, oh, I have these on 3x5 cards. I was like, oh, I need 3x5 cards. So I started writing down all the things that we were learning. And I would literally at the stoplight in the car pull out my cards. And if I was at a stoplight, I was reading the card right there. And I was like, okay, so I could actually say it from memory and not even have to look at the card. I said it over and over because I wanted it to be my new reality. And that is really a huge thing when you're trying to change. You need to create at least one new thought that you can focus on. And then you just keep saying that thought until it becomes so automatic that you can think of a new one because your brain will automate everything for you and it will create safety. And when you practice the right things that you really want to accomplish, they become habits. They become natural to you. I just find that women like to do 18 things all at once and think they're going to be successful at it. And they think they're going to write out their whole life again on Friday night. And then they're going to start on Monday. And Monday is going to go amazing. And I'm like, you can't change 18 things at one time. It's not possible. You've got to do one small thing. And we learned one thing that's tiny that you practice consistently will actually become this huge avalanche and it will change everything just because you're going in the better direction. You're changing one thing. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Talk us through, I guess, your current way of eating and how you used to eat and how that makes you feel.
Okay. So, my current way of eating is super simple. Okay. I get up in the morning, I eat egg. So, this is my diet right now. I eat pastured egg yolks. I don't eat egg whites because they just feed, whatever they feed them or something, it can bother me sometimes. So I'm like, we'll do egg yolks. The egg whites are fine. So I do egg yolks. I do salty provisions, flaky Norwegian sea salt. And I do burger patties. I get flash frozen burger patties. And it's funny because they're like not like from a farm or something. I go to the store and I get their brand and it agrees with me. So I eat burger patties and I'm making ghee right now with a unsalted butter that I get that's grass fed. So I just make ghee out of it because I had acne all over my face and it's been going on for years. So I was like, maybe I'll just take the dairy out and that's working great. I don't buy any ghee that's already like processed and made because I don't know what's in there. And then I do decaf coffee. It's mold-free decaf coffee. It's got some minerals in it. So here's how my day works. I get up in the morning and I have 2 egg yolks with some salt and some ghee. And I go out in the yard and I let the sun hit me like first thing in the morning. And then after I'm out there for a little bit, and usually I'm barefoot. Right now, it's not too cold in Virginia. So I've been walking barefoot all over the yard today, even though it's November. And then about an hour and a half later, I'll have a French press with my mold-free decaf coffee. And then I like to add a lot of water to it. So it's just a scoop of coffee. But I like to turn it into like probably about 20 ounces of coffee. And I put 3 tablespoons of butter. I put salt in there and a little bit of electrolytes. And I sip on that for about probably half an hour or so. And then around 11:30, I will go ahead and start making my burger patties. So I just throw a couple of those in the oven and while I'm doing a bunch of other things, and then I have that with ghee at lunch with a bunch of salt on it. I don't drink at my lunch or my dinner or my breakfast. I don't drink stuff. I'm drinking, like basically water all day with the salt in it. And I just don't do it when I'm eating because I like to digest my food. And then, so dinner is 1 burger patty. I know it doesn't sound like a lot of food, but I was eating more than that. And I found that my I just was like hungry all the time. So Dr. Bright was like, reactive hypoglycemia. You're eating too much protein. So I went from 130 grams of protein a day down to 100. Game changer. Everything changed. So I eat a burger patty at dinner and I have butter and 3 egg yolks with that, well, ghee, and a bunch of salt, and then I'm done for the day. I eat that around 4:30. So, yeah, no snacking. If I do have anything happen and I'm really, like, hungry or tired, I'll have just a little bit of ghee, pour some salt on it. We're all good. So that's my current way of eating. I did do ribeyes for 2 weeks back in July of 2023 because Dr. Bright put me on ribeyes, and basically you were doing like so many ounces of ribeye. So it wasn't a whole big fatty ribeye twice a day. It was literally ounces, like 7 ounces of ribeye for lunch and 7 ounces for dinner. And then I was doing about 1 ounce of ribeye for 2 snacks a day. And then I did coffee for breakfast. That's just what we did, and lots of butter in it. So I've done that. I don't prefer it because right now ribeyes don't agree with me. So, and it's just because the farms and the different stores I buy it from, it just bothers me. And I'm like, well, we just won't do that. We'll do burger patties because it's simple and they agree with me. Now, back in the day when I was doing all the things, I mean, like I've been probably into wellness since like I was 20 or 21. So I was into a lot of good things, but it's like once you know better, you do better. So it was a lot of like, I know I went on the Dr. Phil diet back in the day and I thought I was doing so amazing. It's crazy. But I went from eating lots of fruits, lots of vegetables. I could never eat like shade vegetables. I would get super ill. And, like lots of natural, like veggie straws. We talked about this salty, gluten free veggie straws. I was eating those and lots of chia seed pudding that I put cocoa in. So I was making this chocolatey, stevia, yummy, whatever. Avocados. I ate a lot of avocados before I went carnivore, and I tried an avocado recently, and I was like, yeah, I don't like that. I'm not eating that anymore. Well, it could change at some point, but yeah, I just dreamed of having like avocado oil mayonnaise and avocados this whole time and gala apples. And yeah, they're not a thing. I tried them. I actually swell up after I eat them. My legs swell up and like break out. So it's very weird. But I'm like, well, it's a good thing that happened because I don't care for them and I don't want to feel that way. But I ate Ezekiel bread, like Ezekiel English muffins. And I did my whole, like finding the gluten alternative and thinking that was super healthy. And now I'm looking back on it going, oh, man, I don't eat bacon. I don't eat anything that's not beef because I've tried lamb. Does not make me feel very good. It just, yeah, it's not, I know it's super healing, but I just can't do it. So, yeah, let's stick with the basics decaf mold free coffee, water, salt, egg yolks, beef patties, and ghee.
Nice. It's funny, a question I always get asked is, "Do you get bored eating the same thing all the time?" But it's like, "No, I feel so good. Why would I change it?"
I like boring. Simple and boring is actually way more easy and way more fun. What I have found is most people, because I helped a friend of mine go through an elimination diet and just go on steaks. She wouldn't eat burgers or like beef. She didn't want ground beef. She just ate ribeyes. She bought a cow or half a cow. And she got the aversion to eating all of that. And she just said she couldn't do it. And I was like, it's perspective. I get it. I didn't really go through the aversion thing. I might have had a minute, maybe like one day that I felt that way, but I ate it anyway because I knew it was nutrient dense food. It was going to make me feel good. But most people eat the same 8 foods on repeat, and they call us like boring and like weird because we eat the same thing. But for me, I like to keep it simple because I feel like if I feel like crap and I'm not thinking clearly and I feel sick, why would I want to feel that way? And most of these people feel that way and they're okay with it because they will not connect the dots that it's what they're eating that's causing their symptoms. And if they change what they eat, they can change the way they feel.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a really good way you've put it. Like, I want to feel good, so therefore I'm going to eat, nutrient rich foods that are actually going to, fill me up and keep me satisfied. And actually, a question I was thinking of, if someone came to you and they said, okay, look, maybe I need to lose weight, I want to try carnivore, how would you advise them to get started?
So, what I would tell them to do is not change everything at once unless they were dealing with things like I was, because when that happens, you got to either rip the band aid off and go, or you can do it slowly. It's just going to take you longer to get there. And that's totally fine. Like my clients, it is about whatever they want to do. I'm going to support them. I'm like the passenger in the car. I am not in charge. I'm not telling them what to do. I'm basically giving them information and letting them decide. So they can decide to change one thing. And one of my clients, she wanted to start walking first. She didn't want to start changing everything. And another client was like, let's just do the whole elimination thing because my blood sugar's through the roof and I need to see what will happen. And it took a while of her doing strict carnivore for her to, and it was like just salt, butter, ribeyes, and water. And she was on, before that, she was on like all kinds of supplements and she was, like marketing, like MLM. She was marketing a company that she really loved. And then she realized that it had a lot of rice in the products. So it was like, oh, this could be bothering me. But I tell people it's really about adding in at first. And then, because if they're eating beef, they're actually going to be satiated if they eat it first. If they eat a bunch of other stuff first, they're not going to be satiated. It's like fatty meat. And I'm not saying stick of butter, like eat 3 sticks of butter today or any of that. I'm just saying your fat should be higher than your protein. And I learned this from Dr. Bright because she taught me that, and you don't want to be eating excessive fat because you're going to gain weight doing that. You really need to just make sure your fat is higher than your protein and because most women don't really eat a lot of protein. They eat yogurt and think they're getting a lot of protein. And it's like, that's really just not, no. So I would say I get them to walk more. I don't want them like going, I don't even really say I'm a personal trainer and I don't say, let's program for you. I'm like, hey, why don't you just start walking at least once a day for 10 minutes and drink some water throughout the day? And then, I see how you feel and, like how much are you sleeping? So I'm not like, hey, let's change your whole life today. It's really about just getting them to do one thing and wait and let's see what happens. And once you get there, you'll be like, oh man, like one client, like I was talking about, she added walking and you think that's like not a big deal. It made her weak. And her son started going with her. She was doing it in the mornings before she had to do anything else. And he would like go out there and like ride his big wheel or whatever and like, go out with her. And he's learning that you can walk even though you have a busy, stressful life and you can take care of yourself, which is so cool. And he's like 9. So it's amazing. But yeah, I think just making one small change and being consistent with that and then letting the brain be like, "Oh, you've done this over and over again. Let's automate it. And then let's make another change." So it's just the little things that add up. And yes, we get to the diet. I do not tell them what to do. I ask them what they want to do and I just educate them. Did you know this? Or, like with grains, did you know that they were actually changed, especially like over in Germany, they changed them and they modified them and they did it so that they wouldn't be eaten up by bugs and the weather wouldn't kill them. That did not make them more digestible. That actually made them harder on the human body. So they don't even know that stuff. And they're like, huh, that's interesting. Or did you know that sugar damages your artery wall? And then cholesterol has to come down there and patch that thing up and every time it does that, you've got more and more on there. So, its blockages are not coming from eating butter and lard and tallow and red meat. It's coming from eating lots of sugar throughout the day. And that's just grains and, like these apples. These apples are not what they used to be. They are literally just these desserts. And people are like, I eat like 6 pieces of fruit a day. And I'm like, okay, hmm, how's that working for you? You know?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And the phrase that you ask them, what do you want to do? Not telling them, okay, here's what you need to eat. You kind of letting them find their own. Why are you
Oh,
planning to
yeah.
like? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, teaching them to be, autonomous to themselves and have self-efficacy where they, feel like they can actually make this work. I won't always be there, and they're not gonna be able to always talk to me. So if I make it about them and what they want, and they get to make that decision for themselves and make that a habit, then they can make it. I mean, they can always reach back out to me, but like they can make it because they've made this belief change and identity change in their life because they were in charge.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you mentioned identity change. I think that's a powerful concept because if you have to change, maybe you have to change your lifestyle, change the way you're eating. Almost it's almost like you're taking on a different personality, like a healthier version of yourself.
Yeah, it actually, when people believe that they'll never change, they will never change. But if people start to be the type of person like atomic habits, James Clear talks about when you, like a smoker, in his book, he talked about this guy and he got rid of all the things. He was no longer a smoker, and he could say that because he got rid of the ashtrays and the lighters and the packs of cigarettes and all of the things that reminded him of what that life was about. And then he would say, "I'm not a smoker." He could believe it because he made the change. So people who want to be healthier, fitter, leaner, stronger, just be able to be present in their life, they have to take on that identity by changing. You got to get rid of the stuff that's holding you back. You've got to decide for yourself. Like I tell people, do you need to have a conversation with your family about what's in the house? It's going to be a little bit harder on you because they're not giving anything up and they're expecting you to be happy, healthy, and all the things. They don't want anything to happen to you, but they don't want their things to be taken out of the house. And I'm like, how about we, make some kind of agreement that they can have those things when they're outside of the house. I don't tell them what to do, but I give them like, just perspective shift. What if they could eat that stuff outside the house and not bring it in the house? Because it's hard when it's inside your house and you're trying to change. So it's better to just like have a clean slate and decide, I'm going to bring these things in. I'm going to remove those things and get started. And that just makes it all easier. Another thing I want to tell you that I heard recently on Instagram, I heard this guy talking and he said, it's not about the calories, it's about the ingredients and the food that you're eating. And I was like, whoa, that was so cool. I was like, that was genius. That's what we all need to be focusing on. We're focusing on cutting calories. If I meet one more woman who's on 1,200 calories a day, I'm going to scream and run because 1,200 calories is not an acceptable amount of food for an adult human to be eating. And we're like, they can eat steak, potatoes, a big plate of food, and women are over here eating like a bird. And I'm like, you actually have to eat protein and fat, get nutrients in order for you to be strong and healthy. I mean, I just can't. I did the 1,200 calories a day. It made it worse. It made everything worse. It's just not an acceptable amount of food. So the whole calories in, calories out thing, I think it is very skewed and it's not useful. If people were more worried about eating nutrient dense food and making sure that they were eating enough fat. I mean, the whole thing when we went off fat as a human race, but in the US, when they told us that low fat was better for us, and then they replaced all the fat with sugar, I'm like, how is that supposed to help us? And all of our hormones are made from fat. Even the fact when we were talking earlier, I thought of this. Babies are in ketosis when they're born. Hello. And when they're nursing, you know what they get when they're nursing? I nursed both of my sons for a year each. I think a little bit over a year for one of them, but they were getting saturated fat when I was nursing. What is wrong with us? We don't even accept that saturated fat is what we're like, that's how we need to store fat for our body to use it. So I'm like, we are way down the wrong rabbit hole. We need to like pull our head out of the ground and start looking around and be like, none of this makes sense. This is why we have such an epidemic of illness in our world. The further out that all of our processed food goes to other countries, the more sick those people are. And people that were living like far into their hundreds. are now really sick people and not living as long because they're eating all of this processed non-food that is making them sick. And then they're, if it's okay for me to say this, they are getting a medication to solve the problem when if they stopped eating that food, they wouldn't need the medication. They don't have a deficiency in the medication. Their body knows how to heal itself. I'm a Christian, and God made us to live a long time and to live healthy. And He actually made it to where our bodies would heal themselves when we give ourselves the right nutrient dense foods that can give us the building blocks to heal. And I think that we're all sick because we're eating the wrong fuel and we're expecting it to do what eating meat would do without eating meat. That will never work. It's so simple, right?
Fascinating. And if you've read that book, um, Bad Calories, Good Calories by Gary Taubes.
Kellogg's, is that what you said?
Gary Taubes, he's a journalist. He wrote a book called Bad Calories, Good Calories.
I have not read that yet.
It's fascinating. It basically starts with President Eisenhower having a heart attack in 1958, 1960, and his doctor was obsessed with cholesterol. Okay, let's lower your cholesterol.
Mhm,
And the message to the public from that point on was fat's bad, fat
mhm,
causes heart disease, fat causes heart attacks, that kind of stuff. And what was withheld from the public was that the president was a 4-pack-a-day smoker. That's actually what brought on the heart attack. It wasn't necessarily his diet. Like smoking was obviously the main factor. But yeah, it's fascinating. Since that point on, we've been told fat's bad, sugar's good, carbohydrates are good,
mhm.
and the ultra processed food companies, they jumped on board with that message and saying, fat's bad. Look at all these amazing pre-prepared, convenient foods we've got for you.
Oh, and what is killing Americans. They are just so bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy. I mean, even here in Australia, like you go to the middle of the supermarket aisle, it's all ultra processed, brightly coloured foods, and it's like it's just like getting your brain excited. It's getting it stimulated, and it's like, yeah, it's not even food.
It's so toxic, and it actually has, ingredients in it that causes you to crave more of it, and it's like, we have something called Sweet Frog here, and, like, all these, like, yogurt, um, like, ice cream places, they're basically yogurt, and you think it's health food, and then you go in there, and they've got, like, this whole, like, all you can eat basically candy to put on top of it, and then chocolate syrup, and I just was like, one day in there going, "This is not good. This can't be good." And then people taking their kids, it's just crazy to me. And just the fact that we have been programmed to believe a certain way, and Ansel Keys, I mean, we could throw him in there too because he did that study that was not on 7 countries or whatever. He literally, cherry picked the data and then presented it, and then everyone believes that narrative even though it was skewed, it wasn't even completely true. So you couldn't take that information and say this is fact. It was a hypothesis. It wasn't like a real fact. And I think that nothing is better than how you feel when you eat food. And we're not supposed to eat food to comfort us. We're not supposed to eat food. I mean, it can be like a joyous event, whatever, but we're not supposed to curl up with a pint or a half gallon of ice cream and eat all those seed oils and all that sugar and think that that is helping us cope with something. It's not a good thing. I remember just watching people. I love watching people. It's like the most fun thing you can do. I'll go to the gym and just work out, but I like to watch people and see what they're up to. People just do the darndest things and they don't even realize what they're doing. They don't even notice. And I think that's part of our problem is we aren't even aware. We're not even paying attention. And when you go in a grocery store and like there's 60,000 plus items there in there that aren't even food. I mean like margarine. That is like so toxic. And I'm going to say it. All these plant milks, they're not good for you. I just I bought into that and I didn't feel good when I was on them, but I thought they were healthy for me. So I believed that I was doing the right thing. But you learn, and if you're open, you can change the way that your body feels, even the way your body looks, because body composition is a real thing. It either makes you look amazing or it makes you look not amazing. And it's all based on what you eat. It's all based on how you treat your body and how you even think about how you treat your body.
Yeah, it's a really good way of putting it. Like I've done plant based. I went plant based for 3 months, and I thought I was having the oat milk and the overnight oats. Thought, oh, this is really healthy, and the chia
Mhm.
seeds were really good for me. And then it's like 3 months into it, I feel like, man, I feel terrible. I'm like, I'm really bloated all the time. I don't have any energy. Like, but we're told that vegetarian or plant based, that's the healthiest, most longevity focused diet.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. I didn't even know what an anti-nutrient was. I didn't know what a lectin was. I didn't know that oxalates are a thing. And then you realize when you start eating the nutrient dense food and you start learning more about why we need to eat that, then you're like, huh, that's why I felt bad on that. That's why I still wake up with crust around my eyes. And I talked to Sally Norton at Hack Your Health, and she said, they're probably in your brain, the oxalates. Yeah. So it's really scary that we're pushed on eating fruits and vegetables, not even in season. That's the scariest thing is you're eating something that doesn't even grow like native to your area and you're getting it shipped from wherever else. And it's not good. Like if apples can sit in your fridge for, I don't eat apples, but I have two in there that have been in there for weeks, maybe months. They're still in there and they're okay. So that's like, hmm, that's kind of weird. So yeah.
That's scary and
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. I mean, like they'll be bruised or whatever, and then you just cut that bad part off, throw that away. But these have been sitting in there because, I buy them for my grandkids. And I just noticed they're still sitting there and they're not rotted. And I'm like, it's probably not good.
Yeah.
Another thing, let's talk about this for a minute. People don't realize, but there are a lot of vegetables that are goitrogens, which means they cause problems with the thyroid. And I'm very hyper focused on the thyroid because when I took my dad to Mexico, I went into a stress response because I'm East Coast and I moved for a whole month to the West Coast in Mexico, 3 hour difference. I couldn't walk upstairs and I love to walk upstairs. I love to walk. And I felt like my feet were glued to the ground. I went into hyperthyroid from the stress. And it's really, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, and thyroid affects everything in the whole body. It's like one of the first organs that forms. So people don't really pay much attention to it. And it's like, it's going to make your body do something you don't want it to do if you don't take care of it. And like for my father, he has, prostate cancer, and he had a goiter on his neck, and we didn't even know it. You couldn't see it. It was the size of a baseball. So they had to take the whole right side. I think it's the right side off with it because it was, and they had to like dissect around all of his veins because it had grown all around it. They didn't give him anything for it. Like he didn't get medication, he didn't get testing, he didn't get anything. So now he's like got this prostate issue, right? And I'm telling him, hey, like I make him so mad. So I'm like, hey, you probably shouldn't eat broccoli all the time. I was eating broccoli all the time and had thyroid issues. I was eating cauliflower all the time. And so these foods, cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli. There's a couple more that actually cause thyroid issues and can grow goiters on your thyroid. And people that don't rotate their food that say we are boring and we eat the same food all the time, they will eat the same vegetable every single day for every single meal. And then they'll be like, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know how this happened to me. And I'm like, well, plants are not all good and they cause issues. So if you're not rotating your food and making sure you're not eating the same type, that could cause you a problem. And it's not ideal, so there's that.
It's interesting. Those vegetables you all mentioned, they're not really like natural naturally occurring foods. They're all like results of cross pollination or genetically
Yeah.
modification to produce them.
And you know that they actually changed, like not too long ago, all the organic food now gets a peel on it, APEEL, which is a toxic substance you cannot wash off. That's bizarre to me. And it's like, we've already got all these genetically modified vegetables and fruits. Let's do something to the organic ones to make it all better. I mean, it's crazy. So, yeah. And, my parents are in their late 70s. So they believe vegetables and fruits are good for you and that you need to eat them because that's how you get your vitamins and minerals, but you can't actually absorb vegetables. So I'm like, what's the deal? Like, why are you eating that? Well, you need fiber. No, you don't actually need fiber. You need to go to the bathroom 3 times a day. No, you don't actually need to do that either. If you're eating food that's nutrient dense, your body's going to absorb most of it. So there's not the waste that you're creating with all this fiber. And I did the whole vegan thing for a minute. I didn't do well. I was hungry all the time.
Mhm.
I couldn't do it. I was like, I don't know. I mean, I love animals, but like, I also think that we should eat animals and they should be treated well. I think everything matters when it comes to what you're going to eat. You need to eat food that was treated well. Can't be stressed when you eat it. It doesn't taste good. It doesn't, it's like chewy. Like my son used to hunt. And when he would shoot a deer, if it didn't die instantly and it ran, he didn't want to eat that meat because it didn't taste right and it wasn't delicious like what he wanted. So I think that animals that are abused, I don't eat like grocery store steaks or anything because my body just doesn't agree with that. But, some people do. And I don't know. I feel like if the animal's treated badly, it affects the food, it affects you.
Definitely. Yeah. Christina, what social media are you on?
So I am on Instagram and I'm on YouTube, but I like just cleaned out my channel. It's the same as my IG handle. It's my dot carnivore dot lifestyle. I have a
Awesome.
podcast too.
Excellent. Cool. Yeah. I'll leave your links to your social media in the description of the video. People can reach out to you and check out what you're up to.
Awesome.
No problem. Thank you so much for your time today, Christina. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.